There'll be some questions from people. The mic is okay. Okay. Right. Good morning, everybody. Hi, and greetings from Putrajaya to all our viewers on social media. My name is Fu, and I'm going to be delivering a talk entitled The Future of Work for Accountants. So I plan to share my view in terms of the future of work, in terms of what the accountants will be doing next few years, especially during this challenging times, but also not just because of the pandemic, but also because of IR 4.0, Industrial Revolution 4.0, where we are facing a lot of challenges from a technology point of view. So I wanted to share with you my view in terms of the future of the accounting profession. Then what I'll do is I'll speak a little bit about what Heriot-Watt has to offer in terms of programs that we have to nurture and train accountants as well. So I hope you will join me this next hour, and feel free to ask me any questions and post them on the, I think it's Pigeonhole, right? And you can get the link below somewhere, around somewhere. But before I start, maybe let me just introduce myself a little bit more to all of you. So my name is Fu. I'm the Associate Head of the School of Social Sciences at Edinburgh Business School in Malaysia. And my background is actually in accounting. So I was trained as a professional accountant. I'm a member of the Malaysian Institute of Accountants. For the first 10 years of my career, I actually practiced as an accountant. I've worked in various industries like the accounting firms. I've also worked in industry, in manufacturing, as well as in retailing. So after 10 years working in industry, I decided to make a change and joined the education industry about 25 years ago. So I started out teaching at various levels, from pre-university right up to university, right up to master's, MBA, as well as at PhD level. Right? So I hold a master in finance and also a PhD in accounting. So I know a little bit about the industry, the profession side. I've maintained quite a close contact and networking with the profession. And I have a little bit of experience in the accounting education sector. So I hope my view and perspective will be useful to you if you are interested to pursue a career in the accounting profession and you wanted to know how do you proceed in terms of gaining the right degree and the right qualification to become a professional accountant. All right, so that's the goal that I have today. And so let me start really at the beginning and maybe ask this question, what is your perception of what does an accountant, who is an accountant? What does he or she do? All right, and so what, you may have spoken to friends, may have spoken to family, relatives, and whatever, and you may have some perception of what an accountant does. And I think traditionally many people think that the work of an accountant is very tedious, very boring. There are many terms being used to call an accountant. Traditionally people call accountants as bean counters, right? Accountant, right? So it's from the word account, you think. And then accountants love to count, and they love to count beans, and they love to count the different colors of beans. You've got the red beans, the black beans, the green beans, and they want to make sure that the beans piles are all equal and all that. So there's this traditional view of that, the role of an accountant. The entertainment industry has also portrayed accountant in a certain way. I'm not sure whether you've seen some of these movies before. In this movie, the accountant Ben Affleck is portrayed as an OCD person. He's an accountant by day, but also a secret agent by night. You know, and he's very OCD, and he loves to, you know, very detail-oriented person. And then if you go back further, there's this very old movie, you know, maybe your parents would have watched it before. It's called The Untouchables. It's a fantastic movie, by the way. And it also talks about this tax accountant in that movie who found a way to actually prosecute Al Capone, right? The big, you know, mafia boss in New York in those days. Or rather, I think it's in Chicago. So, you know, again, they portray that the job of an accountant is really very boring, you know, very nerdish, you know, and OCD type people will do accounting. And what I want to do over the next maybe a few minutes is really to tell you that that's no longer true. The role of an accountant is really, really very, very wide. You can do almost anything. And it's not just in the accounting profession, you can venture out into many things, right? So let me give you some examples of people that have studied accounting, they have trained as an accountant, but they are doing fantastic work today, very exciting, and they are leaders in their field. Yeah? So let me give you some examples, some pictures of people. Some of them you probably know very well. Some of them maybe, you know, you're not too sure who they are, but let's go through them. Yeah. So the first one on the far left there is Dato' Nur Samsyah, who is the Bank Negara governor. And but did you know that she was trained as a professional accountant? She is a CPA Australia member. And but now she's leading the finances and the treasury of the country, right? So she's a leader in her own right. So you know, she's no longer really doing, you know, the bean counting work, the bookkeeping work, right? She's actually looking at the finances and the economy of the whole country. Then you know, moving on to her right there, of course, most of you will know who Tan Sri Tony Fernandes is. You know, you link him with Air Asia. Of course, Air Asia is having challenging times at the moment. But did you know that he was trained as a professional accountant in the UK? He's a chartered accountant by training. You know, he doesn't do anything related to accounting. He's an entrepreneur now. Of course, he was you know, the one that actually brought air travel to almost everybody, right? So everybody can fly during the heydays. Of course, now he's facing a lot of challenges, and I'm sure his training as an accountant is helping him to cope, right? And diversify his businesses, change his business model so that he can continue to be successful. And then on the far right there is Tan Sri Jeffrey Chia. So I'm not sure how many of you know him. He was my previous boss in my previous life in a different education institution. Did you know again that he was trained as an accountant? He studied a degree in accounting in Australia, and he was trained. He came back and became an accountant for a while. But then, you know, the entrepreneurial bug took him, and he actually changed the landscape of a wasteland in Bandar Sunway into an oasis today. So I wanted to show you these three people. They're of course leaders today, but I wanted to demonstrate that they are trained as an accountant. They took up their first degree as in accounting, but today they are dynamic business leaders. They are dynamic national leaders. Okay, and they are really no longer, you know, confined into accounting. So you know, the potential when you learn or study accounting is really, really very great. Yeah, so that's the thing I wanted to demonstrate. You know, there's a study done a few years ago, and if you look at corporate Malaysia, right, the largest companies in Malaysia. 1 out of 4 of the board members, that means these are the leaders of these companies, they're actually trained as an accountant. Okay, again, you know, what I wanted to demonstrate here is that if you study accounting, if you're trained as an accountant, you are going to have a lot of opportunities to lead businesses. Okay, not just as an accountant, but as business leaders as well. So if you are still with me online, if you're not going and search something else on YouTube, and if you want to find out more about the profession, let me tell you a little bit about the profession itself and the community and what are the things that people do in that profession. So globally, let me pause here for a second or two to ask you, how many accountants do you think are walking on planet Earth today? Yeah, maybe they are not working there; they're all working from home, but they are all qualified accountants, right? So can you guess how many would you think are, the number of qualified accountants in the world today? If you have somewhere above 3 million, then you are right? So currently there are about more than 3 million. It's not just 3 million currently. There are more than 3 million qualified professional accountants globally, all right, in almost all countries in the world. Any country that has got a business culture, trading, buying and selling, provision of services, trying to generate economic growth and all that, they will need accountants. Okay, so they are almost in any country that you can find. So what do they do in this 3 million people, professionally qualified accountants? Where do we find them? Now you will find a significant number of them in the what we call the accounting firms. The accounting firms such as global accounting firms such as Pricewaterhouse, KPMG, EY or Ernst & Young, Deloitte, right? So these are the largest accounting firms in the world. And what do they do there is that they offer their services to clients in these firms. What sort of services? The traditional services is things like auditing. Okay, auditing means that go out and they review other companies' financial statements to ensure that the financial statements is reliable. Okay, so that's what they do in audit. Then, of course, they can actually also provide tax consultation. They can actually do accounting service, providing bookkeeping services as well. Although today there's a lot of technology that is taking over the bookkeeping service. They can also do business consulting, telling people how to run their business more efficiently, more effectively, right? So if you want to join these people, this group of accountants, then you can join these big accounting firms. Of course, there are also mid-sized firms, okay, and also small firms. There are hundreds of small firms. And these small firms are individual accountants who become very entrepreneurial, and they set up their own accounting firms to provide services to small and medium-sized businesses. So a significant number of them are working in what we call public practice. A larger group of them, in fact, almost 2/3 of the professional accountants are working in companies, right? Small companies, large companies. Okay, companies such as Alibaba, Apple, Shell, they employ hundreds of accountants. Okay, and the accountants there help them to do a lot of things, not just reporting, but also determining how the company is doing, measuring the performance of the company, looking at areas where they need to improve, looking at pricing of products. For example, if Apple, if they want to sell an iPhone, how much do they need to sell it for? Then the accountants are the one that can work out what would be the cost to manufacture one. Therefore, you can set the right price for them. Okay, so they do many of these things in industry, and of course, some of them, not a lot of them, are also working in government, right? So government today also, they face a lot of challenges in terms of their budgeting, in terms of their development expenditure and all that. So some of them work in government. And a smaller number of them are like me. They work in academia doing two things. One is teaching other people about accounting, training other budding accountants, but also doing research in accounting, trying to improve the process of accounting, the work of accounting. Yeah, so there's quite a few of them are there in education. But there was also one group there which I didn't put there, which are probably the Tan Sri Jeffrey Chia of the world, probably the Tan Sri Tony Fernandez of the world. They are entrepreneurs. So a lot of entrepreneurs today, as I've already given you examples, they are trained as an accountant, but they went out to become entrepreneur. Okay? And I think, personally, I'm biased, of course, but I think that if you study accounting, if you are trained as an accountant, you are going to have an advantage once you go out to become an entrepreneur. Yeah, because you know how profit is calculated, you know how profit is generated. And therefore, when you start up your business, you look at the key issues of profitability, you look at cash flow and things like that. Yeah, so that's also something that accountants do today. So now that you know globally, there are more than 3 million accountants walking around planet Earth. Let's narrow it down to Malaysia. Okay, so how many accountants do you think are in Malaysia? So maybe I'll pause again for a few seconds for you to sort of guess. In Malaysia, 28, 32, I think now it's 32 million people. How many accountants are there in Malaysia? Okay, so if you guess a number somewhere around there, 37, it's actually more than 37,000 today. All these are members of one body called the Malaysian Institute of Accountants. The Malaysian Institute of Accountants is an overarching body governing all qualified accountants in Malaysia. So there are about 37,000 plus professional accountants in Malaysia. The next thing you probably ask is, who are they? Right? Maybe some of your parents are also qualified as an accountant and they are also members of MIA. But let me give you a sort of snapshot of the profile of these people. Of course, you would have guessed this. Around 2/3 of them are actually in the main business areas in Malaysia. Okay, so you find them 63% in the Klang Valley, because Klang Valley, of course, is the main industry or economic generation area. But of course, they're also in some major cities in Malaysia, Johor Bahru, in Penang, and also if you go to East Malaysia, they will be in Kota Kinabalu, in Kuching. Right? So as long as they are you are in the center of business in any country, then you will find accountants there. And interestingly, more than half of the professional accountants are women. All right, and that sort of is reflected in our classrooms as well. Normally, more than half of our students in our classrooms are also women. Okay, I'm not quite sure why. Some people say that women are more detailed, they are more organized, and therefore accounting is a more suitable career for them. Yeah, they are more, structured in their thinking, more analytical in their thinking. Okay, but whatever it is, I guess we need a few more men to join the profession to balance things up, and they are increasingly getting younger. Okay, so the older accountants are retiring, like myself, but then a lot of younger people are joining, right? And every year there are about close to 5,000 qualified, or rather graduates of accounting degrees coming out of universities. Okay, so the profession is increasingly going to be a younger, more dynamic profession. And finally, like I said just now, not all accountants are in the big four accounting firms, the Pricewaterhouse of the world and the KPMGs of the world. 2/3 of them are actually in industry, like I said, in business. All right, and accountants exist because of business. So a lot of them are working in that area. Okay, so that's the profile of accountants in Malaysia. Now, some of you will then say, okay, 37,000 plus accountants. Does that sound a lot to you, right? So if those of you who think there's a lot, then you might be thinking, will there be opportunities for me when I graduate? Is there already too many accountants in Malaysia? And the quick answer to that is that no, we still need a lot of accountants. Okay, and how many accountants do we need? So there has been a number that was talked about for many years, that when we become a developed country, we should have around 60,000 accountants. Okay, and those of you who remember, we should have become developed last year in the year 2020. But of course, we didn't meet the target. So now we've set a different target, maybe in 2030, hopefully we can achieve 60,000 accountants. So the point I'm trying to make here is that there's still a lot of opportunities. In fact, on Friday, last Friday, we met an accountant who has a firm in Kuching, in Sarawak, and she was saying that there's a great demand for accountants, even during this COVID-19 pandemic, and moving forward, we need more accountants, but we need better accountants. We need more qualified accountants. We need more quality accountants, right? So the future is very, very bright for the accounting profession. There will not be a lack of jobs for accounting profession. There's still a great demand for it. So, but then some of you may have read a report issued in 2018 sometime by the World Economic Forum. And in there, right, and you may have heard of this on the, the internet and stuff like that, and people have been telling you the machines are taking over, right? And therefore, there will be no job for the accountants as well, okay? Let me address that, and let me talk a little bit about that, but let me look at why, what is the detail of the report that the World Economic Forum produced, right? And essentially what they're saying is that because of technology, because of certain shifts, which I'll share in just a moment, there is now a transference of work that was traditionally done by human beings to what we call robots or artificial intelligence or machines or computers, right? And what are these factors that are shifting the work from human beings to the artificial intelligence? So a few of these things. One is, of course, the high-speed mobile internet. Right? Today, the speed in which we get information from the internet is almost instant. Yeah? Every one of us have got broadband fiber network at your home now, and it's amazing the speed of the internet. Of course, it can be better, but at the moment, it's already quite fantastic. So people are able to get information quite instantaneously, right? Whereas during my generation, we actually had to wait for mails, snail mails we call it, right, to actually come. So high-speed mobile internet is changing the way we work. And artificial intelligence, it's also changing the way we work. Machines are taking over. People are saying that machines are more intelligent. Well, there are some people who say that that's not really true. Yeah, machines are not really intelligent. What they are good at is they can process a lot of information in a very, very fast manner, right? So they can process a lot of information in a very short period of time. And therefore, it appears that they can learn things, right? So if you have a repetitive type of work, like in a factory or bookkeeping for that matter, if it's repetitive and it's the same thing that you do, then the machine can do it very fast for you. Right? And that's why they call it artificial intelligence. Not really intelligence. They still can't, think. Some people will say that, many years ago, there was a machine who defeated the world champion of chess, right? In chess. So some argue that, then they are quite intelligent. But that's not really true, because what the machine did was that it could analyze all the possible variation of moves and decide what is the best move, right? Now, if you call that thinking, then maybe that's true. But that's just the power of analysis, okay? So, if your job requires a lot of recurring and repetitive thing, then the artificial intelligence can do it faster. And the beauty of artificial intelligence, they don't get sick, right? They don't get sick. They don't take sick leave. They don't complain. They don't go into depression. So companies love artificial intelligence because they can work them 24 hours and 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So that's another factor that is changing. And following all these things is this notion of that, the big data and analysis, right? So with artificial intelligence, you can now analyze millions and millions and billions of data, okay? And they can do it very, very quickly. And therefore, they can make what appears to be processes and thinking quite fast. Okay, so big data analytics is one thing, and then it's making all these very, very cheap now because you have cloud computing. Okay, and cloud computing means that you don't need a a huge room to store your data. You can actually put everything in the cloud, and it becomes very cheap for companies to actually take advantage of this. So all these are shifting the work from human being to artificial intelligence and machines and computers. So what's the impact to the accounting profession? And here is where I'm very excited about this. I'm very excited for the accounting profession that we now have this artificial intelligence that can take over a lot of our work, because a lot of our work traditionally has been very repetitive, very boring, very mundane, putting through entries, looking at vouchers and invoices. So all these work now are going to be taken over by machines. In fact, today, you really don't need a bookkeeper. All you need is your mobile phone and a cloud app, an app that is based in the cloud. And you can actually do your bookkeeping just by having a mobile phone. Yeah? So the technology is so good that it's taking away all the mundane bookkeeping job, the job of preparing historical reports, looking at what has happened in the past, which is quite boring because you can't change that. Yeah? So all these repetitive work will now be taken over by machines. And what happened is that it's going to free the accountant to do more value-added work, to really make decisions about which business model to adopt during the COVID-19, look at different markets, analyze how to improve efficiency and all that. Yeah? So what you find now is that increasingly the accountants are freed up to take on what is called future skills. Okay? And I'll give you some examples of them and talk through some of them. So on the left here, I've got a few that increasingly is becoming the role of an accountant. So in the past, accountants are looking at the past, historical records, recording things that happened in the past. All these now can be done by machines. What the accountants will do is look at the numbers and start looking at the impact to the future, so that you can help the business grow and become more resilient and become more successful, right? So you need to be more forward-looking. You need to be more strategic. Strategic here means that you decide based on analyzing the information. You can then decide what you should do, what you shouldn't do, yeah. And you become more strategic in your thinking, and that's another requirement of the accounting profession. And then you've got integrated thinking. Accountants now don't just look at numbers. They look at the impact of numbers to customer satisfaction, the economy, politics, culture of an organization. They are going to look at everything. Okay? And therefore, with all these analytical tools, they are required to exercise professional judgment. So judgment is a thing that machines can't take over. Okay, because judgment depends on a lot of variables, and sometimes you don't go by the numbers. You actually look at based on hindsight, based on your feelings, right? Then only you actually make your judgment. And then on the other side of it, you'll find that there is increasing responsibility put on accountants, because the assets of the business is under the custody and the safeguard of the accountant. So the accountant must show a lot of integrity, skepticism, and independence. Skepticism means that you don't just take the numbers, you want to inquire further. You don't take a face answer from anybody. You want to inquire and ask why, right? The numbers are like that. Increasingly, companies are being global, so you need to be multicultural, multilingual as well. Right? So some of us, if you are good in Mandarin, if you're good in Hindi or Tamil or whatever, Arabic or whatever, then it's very good, because increasingly companies are operating globally, and you need to understand different cultures through understanding their language. Okay? And leadership, of course. Being an accountant is no longer just a bookkeeper. A bookkeeper is someone that does something that is told to them to do. Okay? The bookkeeper is not really a leadership position, but you are now going to be a finance manager or a chief financial officer or even a chief executive officer or an entrepreneur, and you will become a leader. All right? So you need to know how to lead people, motivate people, take care of people. And finally, your communication must be good. Your command of the language, whether it's English or other languages, must be very strong. And part of communication is also listening. Part of communication is also having empathy for people. Yeah? So you need to know how to deal with people. Essentially, to sum up, accountants today cannot just look at the books. They must be people-oriented people, right? So they must become more people-oriented. So this is that's why I'm excited about the accounting profession, right? It's no longer just bookkeeping, bean counting, and all that stuff. So if you are still around and have not gone to other channels on YouTube, then your question will be, okay, great, I'm very excited. You know, when do I start? How do I start, right, if I want to study accounting? Now, the fantastic thing in Malaysia is that there's a lot of opportunity for you guys to actually go and study accounting. Okay? There are generally what I call two pathways leading to an accounting qualification. And what are these two pathways? One is the university route. The other one is what I call the professional route. Okay? Let me explain what they are. So the university route means that if you guys are, you know, just completed your SPM and you are deciding, you know, where you want to go, then if you want to go to the university, that means you need to go and do a pre-university qualification, maybe a foundation program like at Heriot-Watt, for example, and that will take you about a year or so. And then you go to a university, right? So you can go to any university, but again, we hope you come to Heriot-Watt University and you spend 3 years there to get a degree. And then you graduate with a degree, and after that, you can proceed on to do a professional qualification if you want to become an accountant. But of course, you get a lot of exemptions, right? Especially if you come to Heriot-Watt, and then you become a qualified accountant. Okay? So that's the university route. The professional route, traditionally, and it's still available to Malaysians, is that after your SPM, you go straight to join a qualification. Those days, it used to be CAT, Certified Accounting Technician. Now, I think they call it the Foundation of Accounting. And then you proceed on to do your ACCA. You could also do, and you could also go after your SPM if you have a lot of A's. You can actually do an ICAW qualification as well. And then you finish all your papers. And then, you know, you would have completed. And if you have the right number of years of experience, you can become a professional accountant as well. Yeah? You don't have to step into a university. So this has traditionally been the two ways. And over the years, I've had a lot of students and parents come to me and say, okay, which is the better way? Right? My answer to them is there's not really a better way, but there are differences between these two ways. Okay? Essentially, they are just two pathways that lead you to the same place, which is you become a qualified professional accountant. And whether you become successful or not is really, you know, what you do with the qualification. So how do you choose between the two choices that you have? Now again, I'm not going to tell you which is better because I don't think one is better than the other. Okay? I think it's about, you know, some factors that determine, you know, whether you choose one over the other. I'm going to give you three factors that you may consider. Okay? Some of these factors would likely be considered by your parents, and some of them you may consider yourself, right? So what are the three factors? One is cost, and the cost is actually connected with the duration. Okay? So what happens is that generally, if you take the professional route, okay, it is likely, right, there's a high probability that it will cost you a bit less, or actually significantly less, and that's because it's also a shorter period of time. Now that's provided, of course, that you have a smooth sailing throughout your professional's course of study. And you know, if you are on a ship, you know, the sea is calm, like in the Putrajaya lake here, which you can't see, but you know, behind you there's a Putrajaya lake. And the lake is very calm, and you take a boat, it will just go wherever you want to go. Yeah? But if the water is choppy, like in the ocean, and you've got, you know, waves coming, and then maybe, you know, you will take a bit longer. What I meant by waves is that sometimes, you know, the challenges you face, you may not pass certain modules. all right, and you have to repeat them, and then it will take longer, and then it will become more costly. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you here is that if you are looking at costs and the potential of saving money, and as a result of a shorter period of study, possibly, then you might choose the professional pathway. Okay, but the third one is something I think is more important, but provided you can spend a little bit more money and be patient a little bit and spend a little bit more time studying. And the third one is the experience. So what do you want to experience the next 3 to 4 years of your study after your SPM, right? Do you want to experience a university life by the lakeside, fantastic lake here, a calm campus where you can interact with your friends, do fantastic things, get involved in a lot of activities, find your purpose in life, and discover your meaning, if you want to do that, then come to a university, right? If you don't want to do that and you think you want to go out and work fast, you don't mind the stressful life of mugging for exams, sitting for mock exams after mock exams so that you make sure you pass, day in, day out is actually practicing on past exam questions. That's the life you may experience in the professional pathway. Okay? So if you don't mind that, then of course, but most of us perhaps want to take their time and really discover themselves. And I'm speaking to parents today, maybe, your child needs some time to find out who they are, right? And what they really, really want to do in life. Many of them, I'm sure, including myself, I've got a son who really don't know what he wants to do. All right? And if you think that's the case, then university experience allows you to do that. Okay? So that would be my 3 tip for you to think about which pathway you want to go into. So, again, if you're still around and you say, fantastic, now let me find out a little bit more about what Heriot-Watt has to offer. So let me focus maybe the next 5 minutes of my talk to really touch a lot more in terms of what Heriot-Watt has to offer, who Heriot-Watt is. Hi. Please do come in, yeah. Hi. Please have a seat. Sorry, we have some guests coming in. Just sit anywhere. Yeah. Maybe not too near to me. Okay. That's okay, it's okay. You sit there, I'll move away. The camera has to follow me. Okay. So we have a few people coming in, and for the benefit of those few people, I've already talked a little bit about the accounting profession to people on the internet and social media. I'm now talking a little bit more in terms of what Heriot-Watt has to offer, right? And who Heriot-Watt is, what the university stands for. So let me introduce you to Heriot-Watt. Now Heriot-Watt, in fact, this year is a milestone for Heriot-Watt, in the sense that we are celebrating our 200th year. So we are two centuries old. Okay, we are that old as a university, that established. Okay, so we were established in 1821. And if you go back in time and you were living in 1821, let me describe 1821. It's a very exciting period in the history of the world because they just invented the steam engine. Right? Before this, they were all in the rural areas, planting, agriculture, produce, farming, and things like that. And the businesses were not existent, and they were very, very self-sufficient. They live in the villages. They just plant what they want to eat and all that. Now, during these times, 1821, during this period, they just invented the steam engine, and this steam engine could do a lot of the things that humans couldn't do. Okay, they created the train, and the train could take people across long distances and all that. They created a machine that can sew clothes faster than human beings, right? So it was very exciting, but also very worrying because what is this? What is this steam engine? Everyone is very frightened. So we set up our university to train people to work in that environment. Okay, so that was 1821. That's how Heriot-Watt started. Okay, and in fact, so that period is very important. Hello. Hi. Come join us. Yeah, no worries. I was just telling them a little bit about Heriot-Watt and the history of Heriot-Watt. So Heriot-Watt started during a time of what we call the first industrial revolution, okay, where we created steam engine and we were able to do things beyond our human limitations. And as a result, businesses exploded. Okay? And from then onwards, from the late 19th century down to the 20th century, business opened up. Companies started to form. And after that, as you all know, you now live in a world where business is everywhere. Today, we are living in the fourth industrial revolution, where again, there's a lot of things that are changing. I was talking to the social media on the internet to our audience there earlier about the impact of industrial revolution, where a lot of the work of human beings today is being taken over by machine. And that's because of the high internet speed, artificial intelligence and all that. Again, many of us are becoming very cautious, very afraid of the impact to our work, especially people of a less younger generation from the young generation here. We are afraid our machines going to take over our job. All right? And as I said earlier, it will take over the mundane part of our jobs to free us to have a more value-added role in industry and in commerce. But we are living in the same time period as Heriot-Watt was set up. All right? And again, I'll show you. I'll talk about it later on. Heriot-Watt is doing something to prepare our students, our graduates, for this unknown world that we are living in. Okay? But I wanted to just stress that when we were set up, it was another phase of change in the world. But of course, we've come a long way, and we are now in a global university, and we are now operating in 3 main campuses. Right? Our mother campus is in Edinburgh. There are a few more campuses in Scotland. Then we set up the Dubai campus quite a few years ago. And around 10 years ago, we set up the Putrajaya campus, as you see here. Okay? So we are a very global institution. And of course, today here, all right, so you are in the Putrajaya campus. We've set up, it's a purpose-built campus, right? And it's the wonderful lake is very calming, so you want to study here, it's really nice and a peaceful environment to study. And here we focus on so some of you will be asking, so what is university education all about? And I'll sum up into 3 things that you really learn in any university environment. Okay? And these are the 3 things, knowing and doing. Let me talk about knowing and doing. Knowing and doing means knowledge, right? Knowing how to do accounting, what is debit, what is credit, what's an asset, what's a liability, what's an equity, what's financial statements, etc., etc. That's knowledge. Okay? And knowledge can be obtained through, nowadays you can Google anything you want on Google. Okay? You watch YouTube, you can do anything from frying an egg to making a bomb. You can find that out on YouTube. Okay? So that's knowledge. Knowledge, you either sit down and you listen to knowledge, or you read up to get knowledge. Right? Some young people today, they do it osmosis. They take the book near them and then they think that they will be transferring knowledge. But so that's what knowledge is. But having knowledge is not enough, because how do you go out? Like I always tell people, how do you learn how to swim? You can't learn how to swim by just reading the process of swimming. You have to jump into the pool. So that's doing. So doing means you have to acquire the skills to actually do and apply what you've learned into a sort of semi-real environment. All right? So that's what you do. Case studies, you do challenges, business competitions and stuff like that. We do it all here to allow you to actually learn how to do, not just know how to do it. So that's the 2 main things, and most universities are able to cover knowing and doing very well. But the third thing that I always believe to me is even more important than knowing and doing when you go to a university is being. And what is being here is, it reminds me of a quote by someone that I knew that told me what universities are, what universities are to young people today, right? So universities are places where you actually grow up, right? And become an adult and find what you really want to do, okay? So and hopefully you find what's the right way and the good way of becoming a person. So you grow up in a university. So to me, all this is summing up what I mean by being. Being means how to become a good person, how to make the right decisions, how to be strong and resilient during difficult times like these, where challenges are everywhere. All right? And this is where Heriot-Watt comes in, because we have a program which we call Empower, which actually help students discover, or young people discover, number one, what's their purpose in life. We think that by discovering your purpose in life, you will be able to withstand the constant struggle that you all be facing every day of your lives. Right? All of us want to search for happiness. But what's happiness? Happiness can be short-term happiness, right? When you watch a movie and you feel happy for that moment, and then when you come home, all the challenges comes back again, right? So happiness can be quite short-term. Long-term, sustained happiness means the resilience to actually go through all the struggles and challenges. And in order to do that, we believe, that our psychologist tells us that you need to have a purpose. You need to have meaning. And we do that. The moment you come in, the first semester, we actually have a program where you sit down with you, a workshop over a certain period of time. We help you discover who you are, your purpose in life, and how you want to activate that purpose and impact the world. Okay? You can change it later on, that's fine, but we start the process for you. So we are very focused on this idea of how to be a person, how to be a good person. Okay? And we are very structured and very forceful in that approach. Now let me touch a little bit about the program that we have, and that relates to accounting. Okay? And assuming most of you here and those in the audience at home really want to know how do I move from, let's say, and I assume all of you maybe at SPM level or at pre-university level, what do I do to really gain an accounting qualification? So assuming you start from SPM, right? Those at home, if you just set for your SPM and now you're waiting for results, how do I know whether I've gained enough SPM, a good SPM to actually start my path? Normally you can, as long as you achieve 5 credits, you should be able to proceed. But first what you need to do is to get a pre-university qualification. Okay? You can go anywhere, but of course, as I said earlier, we hope you'll come to Heriot-Watt so that we can start the journey of discovery of who you are and your purpose with us. So you can join our what we call our Malaysian Foundation program here. It's actually a 1-year program, right? And it prepares you for our university programs. So how must you do in terms of the foundation program so that you can actually proceed to our university? You must achieve 4 credits, 4 Cs with us, and then you can proceed. But if you are going to do our accounting program, because of the quantitative nature of the accounting program, we require to have at least a B in your maths, all right, for your SPM. Okay? It doesn't have to be advanced maths, okay? It can be just your basic maths. And then you join us at the undergraduate, and we have our programs are 3 years. We have the MA in Accounting and Business Finance. Now, before you start, wow, okay, it's an MA. Am I jumping my bachelor to become a master? No, you are not. It's just that being a 200-year-old university, being a 2-century-year-old university has its privileges. Being an ancient university like us, we have the honor together with other ancient universities in the UK, for example, in Cambridge and Oxford and all that, to actually offer undergraduate degrees called a Masters of Arts, right? So don't worry, these are all at bachelor's level, undergraduate level. It's just that we call it the Masters of Arts. Okay, so it's an honors degree, 3 years that we have. So you can spend all the 3 years here in Putrajaya Lake here for the whole 3 years, all right? Or you can actually take advantage of the fact that our curriculum, so we are a global university, so whatever that we teach week by week is identical to throughout all our campuses. In fact, we actually have what we call global teaching teams. So all the courses are being taught by a team of people across all the 3 main campuses, right? And as a result, they're all identical. So you can actually move around those 3 campuses at any time that you want. We call this the Go Global program. You can't see it very well here, but it's called Go Global. All right? And if you don't want to spend time, or you want to spend 1 year in Malaysia, 1 year in Edinburgh, and another year in Dubai, that's fine as well. Okay? Because we are all identical. So after that 3 years and you complete your degree, you can start working, right? Your career starts that day after you got your certificate, right? And you can do whatever you want, as I said earlier, to audience in social media. You can go to KPMG and start work there. You can go out to corporate and start work there. Some of my students go out and start up their own businesses. Right? And they can start up their business there. If you want to become an accountant, then what you need to do is you need to now further study to actually pursue and complete your professional qualification. All right? So we have advanced standing with ICAW, ACCA, CIMA, and CP Australia. You have a lot of exemptions for their professional qualification or examinations, and you do maybe between 4 papers to right up until 5 and maybe 7 papers. Okay, depending on the qualification that you have. So that's the pathway that, if you want the journey through Heriot-Watt. And I'm almost at the end. So I already talked to you a little bit about this just now. As I said, our focus on the being part of university education, where you learn how you discover who you are and you discover your purpose in life. That's captured in our program. Again, it's not so clear, which we call Empower, all right? And we would think that's very important. And I leave you with this quote by Mark Twain, which says that there are 2 important days in your life. The first day is when you were born. So once you are born, everyone is important. You are valid. You are worth a lot. You're very valuable. And then the second day becomes even more important to you is when you find out why you are here. All right? And I think all of us will search for that. And I searched, and I found why I'm here when I'm 40 plus, because I never had an opportunity to come to Heriot-Watt. But when you come to Heriot-Watt, you'll have the opportunity to find out where you likely are going when you are around 20, 21, maybe 22. Okay? So I leave you with that code. And now, happy to take any questions that you may have. Questions from home. We probably have some questions from Pigeonhole, but because people travel here a long journey and take the risk, let me ask the audience in the hall first if you have any questions before I take the ones on the Pigeonhole. Welcome. I didn't have the chance to welcome you all to is that your first time here in the lake?
Yeah, first time.
Okay. Or is it the first time out of the house since 1 year ago? No. So we're currently working from home, yeah, and all the classes are still online at the moment. Yep, but we are hoping and praying that we can come back to campus here very soon. Okay. So do you have any questions in the room? Yes, sir.
Suresh, yeah.
Hi.
I understand now the programs are online programs.
Yep.
So how if students want to clarify on points and all that, how can they contact the lecturers?
Yes. So currently, let me explain a little bit about our online classes. And I actually don't like the word online classes. We are still functioning as a university. We are still focused on delivering a university education to everybody, right? Our preference, the teaching team, and I know the students prefer that, and the teaching team prefers that as well. We want to come back to campus. because that's the best way to interact. And I've been teaching for 25 years, and it's so difficult to teach in a laptop. You just see that 13-inch laptop, and most of the time they switch off their cameras. So I'm just staring. I don't know who I'm staring at. Like that, I know maybe there's no one in the internet at the moment. So it's really frustrating for us. So we want to come back, right? So I just want to stress that we are not doing an online. It's not a MOOC course. It's not an online delivered course in the sense that you have videos and then you just do the work, read your own, and then that's it, right? So we actually are going online to deliver, try to deliver a face-to-face class online. So we are trying to deliver that sort of contact, but it has to be through online. So we are doing live lectures. So we have all these materials, videos as well, but your timetable remains the same. So we have 1 week. If you have four courses, each course is timetable, and you literally come to class the same time, and the lecturer is there physically on the other side. We switch on our camera so you can see us, and we're trying to deliver that. So it's a live lecture. It's not on online. So I don't like the word online, actually. And the same thing. So we have lectures, we have tutorials. So the lectures, of course, being live, you can have hundreds of them. And the beauty of it now is that we can have a class that is broadcast across all 3 campuses. So you can now literally join our Heriot University class and be with course mates in Dubai, course mates in the UK. But of course, we'll take into account the time zone and everything. So these classes are normally around 4 p.m., 5 p.m., or 6 p.m. Yeah, but you get to go in there, and then some of the classes are being taught directly from the UK as well. Okay, but we still have tutorials. So you still break out into small tutorial groups of 20, 25 students, right? And where we still go through the problems or the cases with you, and go through them with you, and you have opportunity to ask questions. On top of that, you have also consultation sessions. Of course, you can't come and see me, so we go on a lot of platforms. It can be Teams, and you can on one-on-one, you can call online and all that. So just want to stress that. So it's not like, oh, okay, the lecturers go off on a trip in Langkawi, and then everything is automatic. Yeah. So nothing is automatic. It's actually become more stressful to teach online for all of us. So I hope that answers, and you get a right picture of what we mean by online. Okay? Okay, let me attempt to answer some question because of time. This is a question on MBA program, right? So how long is the duration of the MBA program, and is the class during weekends? They are ODL learning mode. So the duration of the MBA program, this is more for people at home. It's actually a 2-year part-time MBA that we have. Right, and these are more for working adults, so you need to have working experience. And classes are held on weekends, right? So each class will have probably about three weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. Just imagine Saturdays and Sundays you have full where we actually do interactive learning online. For the time being, it's still online. So that's the weekend classes. We do have open direct learning in the sense that it's the MOOCs type of course where you can go online and study on your own. That's just for MBA. We don't have it for undergraduate. You can't go in and do on your own. So at the MBA level, we do have where, we have videos and stuff like that, and you can study at your own pace, right? And of course, the fees will therefore be very different, yeah, because there's no interaction there. So I hope that answers that question from Ganesh. Is coding relevant to future accountants? Do they need knowledge on how to code? My answer, and some may disagree with me, I don't think you need coding, right? Give the chance to the computer people to code for you, okay? Don't take everyone's job, So I don't think you really need to know how to code. It's not critical, right? What's more important is you can hire a coder to do all the programming for you, but you tell them what is required. What's more important is how to interpret that information and how to use that information to manage your business. Right? I think that's more critical. So to my mind, I don't think accountants really need to know how to code. am qualified as an accountant after finishing degree in accounting, or I still need to attend AC. No, yeah. So the question is that, are you a qualified accountant after you graduate with a degree? The answer is no. Okay. To be qualified in Malaysia and in most countries, you need to have a professional qualification. Yeah. So because there's the philosophy, university education is just basic knowledge, fundamental knowledge. Your applied knowledge needs to be enhanced to a more advanced level at the professional qualification level, right? So you still need to do your ACCA to become a qualified accountant. It's like a doctor, right? You can study how many years in medicine in the university, but you still need to have practical experience and need to sit for a certain examination to ensure that you are at the level to practice. Same like lawyers as well, okay? And difference between business administration and international is, yeah, well, I guess, you know, if you look at international business management, it's more international. I guess most business programs today has got elements of international in them because all business today are global, right? So international business management is more international. In Heriot-Watt, we have two different types of degree. We have a Bachelor of Business Administration and an International Business Management degree. The difference between that is that the Bachelor of Business Administration degree is more flexible, so there's a lot more options for you. Whereas the International Business Management degree is more structured and you'll have to finish certain modules compulsory. Yeah? So that's the difference between business administration and IBM. And I can't decide between accounting, business, finance, and business and what's the difference between the two. Accounting, I've already tried to explain what accounting is. It's really about using information to manage the business, right? And providing that information and interpreting that information. Finance is very much about funding your business, right? How do I source funding for our businesses? You know, where do I get the financing from, whether it's by borrowing or by internal funds or by equity or shares, right? So you decide the best mix for that, okay? So normally accounting and finance, they're quite intertwined, okay? So, you know, you can't do one without knowledge in the other as well, yeah? So, so that's the difference between the two. Sorry, I'm speeding up a bit because I'm taking a bit of time off my colleague. Career prospect or accounting degree versus career prospect business management degree. They are both the same to me. So my advice, final advice, as I need to close off now, is that you want to go into business. There are many pathways for you to go into business. Okay, and there's no right or wrong programs to go. So many people are, you know, at this crossroads in your life, you know, after SPM, go after PU, many of you are very, very concerned. I don't know, maybe pressures from your friends and all that. Choose the right degree. If not, you are going to fail, right? My advice to you is there's no such thing. You do what you choose today. Choose it based on how you feel today, or what you are good at today, and do it. And then the future beyond that is up to you, okay? So there's no such thing. If I do an accounting degree, I'll be more successful. If I do a business degree, I'll be less successful. There's no such thing. So what your decision process should be is, what am I good at now? If you're good at numbers and you're very detailed and you're very organized and analytical person, I think you would be very likely to succeed with an accounting degree. If you don't like numbers, and you see numbers, you give you scratches, your eczema all come out, then my advice to you is that stay away from accounting, go and do marketing, international business management, whatever it is. You will still become successful. It all depends on what you do. All right? So let me just end there by saying there's no such thing as a magic degree that you do and you become boom. Yeah? There's no such thing in business. Okay, you do whatever you want. You have accountants who are successful, accountants who are not successful. You are the business people who are successful, and you have business people who are not successful, right? So there's no magic formula. What it is that get on with your life, choose what you really like at the moment, right? And just do it, and do it the best. Don't go choose something now and say, oh, I hate it for the next 3 years. right? Do something that you say, I'm going to like every day, I'm going to come, I'm going to do my best, I'm going to get a good qualification, and that's it. And then after that, that's your life. Okay? So let me end here, as I've taken 5 minutes off my colleagues' time, and wish everyone all the best. I'm happy to take any questions out there if you like. And viewers at home, all the best to you. Please take care, stay safe, and wish you everyone well. Thank you. Okay.
and very warm welcome to all of you on campus and our audiences at home or perhaps at their desk. So this talk is about two programs that we offer in School of Mathematical and Computer Sciences and Department of Actuarial Mathematics and Statistics. These two programs are Actuarial Science and Statistical Data Science. And I named this as the power of data because many students and many people ask, what is the difference between actuarial science and data science? So the answer is both of them work with data. And both of them need data, they need to find data, they need to clean data, they need to build model with that data, and they need to interpret. And also they need to communicate their results. But the difference is the methodology that they use and where they use the data in order to solve problems. And we see later how this data is important and how the assumptions that we have is important when we want to interpret our data. So here we have Heriot-Watt personality. We transform people and their life. We want to make sure that we have global citizens. We expect our students and our graduates to be a global citizen, to respect diversity, and to be tolerant and use their skills in order to have the right impact on society and the environment. We have 5 campuses in Malaysia, Dubai, and Edinburgh. And our education is built on positive education philosophy, which means that we care about the well-being of our students and also the soft skills. It is important for us that our students learn how to have the right impact on environment and on the society. And this can be achieved through our Empower program. There are different levels and different clusters. One of them is global citizenship, as I just mentioned, and leadership and impact. So we have different workshops for our students in order to teach them how to lead. We have emotional intelligence, resilience, and happiness. We want our graduates to be a resilient people, to make sure that they know, to make sure that they are happy. Because happiness is not just based on what we have, it's based on our mindset. People skills, this is about communication skills. This is about soft skills, which is required by all employers. And this is something that they always tell us. Make sure that your students know how to communicate. Creative innovation and entrepreneurship, we have different workshops for our students in order to teach them about entrepreneurship. And we had different competitions for our students as well. Critical thinking and decision making, which is, I can say, the core part of a statistical data science program and actuarial science, and of course many other programs at Heriot-Watt University. And employability and industrial relevance. So at the end of their graduation, at the end of their study, what the students can have is to have Empower Award, and they will have a degree to show their employers that this is what I had done when I was studying at university. Now the question is, who is an actuary and what they can do? So whenever we talk about actuary, in the past, because the traditional role of actuaries was working in life insurance companies. And in the past, whenever someone asked about actuaries, if they know something about them, they would say, these are people who work with deaf people. Well, they are not exactly working with deaf people, but they are working with deaf data. Those who want to price, for example, longevity risk. So when we say that they work in life insurance companies, it is important for them to build life tables, which means that they need to have data in order to predict the life expectancy of people in order to be able to set the premium, which is the price of life insurance product, in order to be able to determine reserve, in other words, how much money they need to set aside to make sure that they can pay the claims in the future. So for all this, mathematical skills is very important, and a lot of complicated and difficult formulae that everyone know about that. So they need to have this mathematical skills. You need to be good at math to be able to be a good actuary. Then they need to have analytical skills. So they need to be able to analyze data. As I mentioned, this is not just about actuaries, this is also about data scientists, because they have data, so what they want to do with this data. They need to be able to analyze data and communicate, communication skills, which means that they need to be able to interpret their results and to communicate this. Because where actuaries are working, they need to be able to communicate with managers, and managers don't have anything about complicated formulae. Or, for example, they need to work with customers who don't have anything, who don't have any knowledge about this mathematics, because they want to persuade them, okay, this fund is not the right fund for you, I mean investment fund, so it's better to invest in another fund. How they want to persuade their customers. So communication skills is very important. Some actuaries are senior actuaries, and some of them are in the board of directors, so they need to have management skills as well. And of course, they need to be creative and adaptable. So adaptation is very important because they need to adapt themselves to uncertainty in the future, uncertainty related to change in interest rate, change in financial market, inflation rate, and many other risks. For example, one of these risks is legislation. I was working with a group, and we were writing a report, and I can say that every month we need to revise our reports. And the reason was that there was new requirement, we needed to update that, there was new legislation. And so that was just about our report, but actuaries who are actually working in a company, they need to adapt their practice. They need to adapt, for example, their formulae. For example, those who are working on the solvency and they build a model for the solvency of the companies, they need to make sure that they meet the requirement of Solvency II, which is a directive for them. And for example, this can be about tolerance level. It can be different risks that they need to take into account. So they need to adapt themselves, and this is important. But of course, they can impact on legislation because some of them are working for government, and in fact, they are governmental actuaries. So they are working in pension funds, and they need to find different reasons why we need to have different legislation. For example, there are some actuaries nowadays who are working on climate change. When we say that actuaries are working in climate change, that doesn't mean that they predict what happens in the future. They want to see what is the impact of climate change on life insurance companies, on general insurance companies, and how these companies can affect climate change. For example, do we need any legislation to persuade our companies that they don't have to invest in oil-producing companies, or those companies that produce a lot of CO2, and how it's possible for them to divest from these companies and invest in green energies, like solar energies. So they impact on legislation as well. They impact on people's life and business. Where do they work? Traditionally, life insurance companies, pension funds. Nowadays, they're working in health and care because, for example, they want to design different medical insurance, and they need to be able to have some knowledge about different diseases, different factors that affect these diseases, to build a model, to be able to set the price on these policies. So they work in health and care. And banking and finance, well, that's the financial sector, of course. Actuaries work in financial sector. They also work in technology because we have emerging risk. One of these risks is cyber risk. And they want to design a product to be able to offer So what they need to do is to be able to cost, whenever there is a risk, we want to know the cost of the risk. And how to find this cost of the risk? They need to build a model, they need to gather data. Sometimes this data is not available, but they need to use different sources to be able to build a model and to introduce a new policy. And as I mentioned, some actuaries nowadays work in climate change. We have different actuarial professional bodies, and including Malaysia, some of them provide different examinations. And here, and also you can get exemptions from these examinations through different universities, including Heriot-Watt universities. Institute and Faculty of Actuaries, IFA, is in UK. We have Society of Actuaries in US. We have Casualty Actuarial Society, again in US. We have Actuaries Institute in Australia. And for example, Institute of Actuaries of India, they all have different examinations. But when you become Fellow of Actuaries, they all recognize each other. The only difference is the practice, because, for example, if you want to work in Australia and you are Fellow of UK, IFOA, what you need to have is to have some knowledge about practice and legislation, local practice. So you need to perhaps have a training or maybe another course, but the most important thing is to pay money and to get degree. It doesn't mean that you need to go through all those steps to become a fellow again. So they all recognize each other. And similar to any businesses, they need to develop. Actuaries also need to adopt different methods. So the question is, what does the future hold for actuaries? So let's hear from some actuaries what is the future of actuarial science and this business.
Technology is moving ahead far quicker than insurance companies are evolving. The industry has changed from doing a lot of nuts and bolts work in terms of maths to us actually analyzing the data and really being able to interpret what that means from an insurance company's perspective.
You can magnify so much information from data across the world, all the different sources of data. So it's about using that data in a scientific way for various purposes.
We've all seen the sort of Facebooks and Cambridge Analyticas and issues that brings up, but I think that there really is a high focus on professionalism from the Actuarial Society. It's really up to the actuaries to maintain that code of ethics and professionalism.
It seems to me that computers will automate more and more. Artificial intelligence, neural networks, cognitive reasoning will actually do a lot of the work which is currently done by actuaries. So in the fullness of time, it's going to be much, much more than maths. But I'm sure that emotional intelligence, intuition, and the sort of things that people don't necessarily associate with mathematics will be just as important. So you get that combination, that diversity will enrich what our profession can do.
I think we need to make sure that we are certainly more diverse as a profession, both in terms of skills and talents, but I think also in terms of backgrounds. Having said that, I think there's also an element of upskilling existing members and broadening the syllabus such that it sort of stays with the times, if you will.
We don't define what actuarial science is very well. You ask 100 actuaries, you'll get 200 answers. And we need to do more thinking about what's that real unique added value.
The kind of traditional actuarial job is potentially going to be unrecognizable in some sense in, say, 20 years' time. The really cool thing is it's up to the new actuaries to really shape and drive that.
And these are IFOA examinations. So we have core principle. We have 7 subjects on the core principles. We have 3 subjects on the core practice, 2 subjects, specialist principles, and 1 subject. So there are a list of subjects, but you just need to choose 2 out of those subjects. And also 1 subject for specialist advanced. So this is the path to becoming an actuary. And here we provide exemptions for CM1, CM2, CS1, CS2, CB1, and CB2, which are under core principles. Here we have program structure. The first year is the same for both actuarial science and statistical data science. So sometimes we tell the students, don't worry if you are not sure whether whether to choose actuarial science or data science, because after 1 year, you still have this opportunity to switch from one program to another one. So the first year, you can get exemptions. So here we have some exemptions shown here by red color. So you can get exemptions from CM1 if you have actuarial and financial mathematics A and B. So one of them is in the first semester, the other one in the second semester, together with life insurance mathematics, again A and B, which is in second year. One of them is in the first semester and the other one is in the second semester. You can also get exemption, for example, by taking statistical models A and B, and CS1, and also probability and statistics A and B. So 4 courses is equivalent to one of the exemptions. And then we have portfolio theory and asset models. We have derivative markets and discrete time finance. These are all about CM2. We have also continuous time finance. So there are a lot of financial courses. In fact, we can say that the difference between actuarial science and data science, as I mentioned, is about the area that they use their knowledge. And if I have some students, they say that I don't want to hear anything about money. I don't want to hear anything about a stock exchange. So what I need to do? I would say, okay, go and study data science. But if you're interested in derivative market, if you're interested in finance, go for actuarial science. So I think that's the difference between actuarial science and data science. And data science is more towards computer programming and computer science than actuarial science. And yeah, you can get exemption from CS2 by taking risk theory, time series, and also here we have stochastic processes and survival models. And of course, when I say that you can get exemptions, that means you need to have a very good performance in exam. That's our condition. And this is entry requirements for English. And also, we accept ABB, and it is important that A is in math. However, we consider special cases, and this should be discussed in a committee. So don't worry if you don't meet these requirements, just send us. We need to consider those special cases. What our students say? Here we have Charmaine, who graduated in 2019. She was very happy for studying at Heriot-Watt University in Malaysia because she thinks that she didn't need to go other countries and she can stay here and still she can get an international degree. So she was a very good student, actually. Now, who is a data scientist and what they do? So data scientists also, they want to solve problems, but perhaps different type of problems. Their problems is not necessarily related to financial problems. They still need to have data. Sometimes there is not just one source of data. There are different sources of data, and they need to combine this data. And what is important is to look at the historical data and see and detect the patterns, to uncover any patterns and trends to be able to predict future. Of course, sometimes we say that past is not a good representative of the future. Data cleaning, as I mentioned, there are different sources of data, so they need to combine this, and data cleaning is very important. They need to build model using, for example, different computer programming like R and Python that we teach our students here. They need to be able to analyze data using different visualization tools. They need to check validity of the results. Of course, they need to be creative and communication skills, again, is very important. As I mentioned, this is softer skills. Whenever you work on something, whenever you do some research, what you need to do is to communicate your results, because otherwise, what is the benefit of your findings? So communication is very important, and it is important to be able to communicate in simple terms, because sometimes people don't understand mathematics or even programming, the codes behind what you found. Analytical skills, again, is very important. Predictive analysis. Some of the actuaries now working in general insurance companies. So I know this is about data scientists, but some of them are working in general insurance companies. And as I mentioned, they started to adopt different methodology used in data science. And the reason is that they need to be able to predict, for example, the number of claims, the severity of claims, especially this is the case in general insurance company, because the product cycle is reversed. In the case of general insurance companies, in different manufacturing companies, we know the cost of raw materials, we know the cost of labor, and then we determine the price. And then we sell it to the customers. But in insurance companies, this is not the case. We don't know what is the cost in the future. This is something that we need to be able to predict. We just, based on our prediction, based on our assumption, we set the price and then we sell it to customers, which are policyholders. But we don't know about the actual cost that may happen in the future. So we need to be able to predict. And as I mentioned, nowadays, for example, there are different task forces in Casualty of Actuarial Society. I'm also part of that task force. We try to identify different potential areas in actuarial science that we can apply machine learning techniques. So these are not the type of techniques which are necessarily new. These are the techniques that it was not possible to be used in the past, because extensive programming required, because we needed to have high-speed computers, but these are available now. So now we can adopt machine learning techniques and those techniques which require a lot of time and are time-consuming. And for example, one area that data scientists are working, they want to optimize processes. They are working in a company, and let's say the turnover rate in a company is very high. So they want to know what the actual reason is. Is it because of the pay? Is it because of, for example, the managers? And is it because of the workload? So they need to have data to analyze this data and find a pattern to be able to identify the problems and help the company to optimize their practice. So for data science, these are the skills that they need. Again, statistical skills, mathematical skills, these are similar to actuaries. They need to know computer programming, similar to actuaries, but of course this is more related to computer science, as I mentioned. So here we don't have data science, but we have statistical data science. So that's why most of our programs are about mathematics and statistics, because this is very important for the students to have this knowledge and to build their understanding based on statistical and mathematical skills to be able to build models. So that's why it is called statistical data science, not just data science. And of course, machine learning techniques is something new to data scientists, and this is something that they need to know. Now, I was talking of the power of data and how it is important that we consider our assumption, how it is important that we interpret our results carefully. So this is one of the findings during pandemic. There is a negative association between COVID-19 severity and smoking cigarettes. Do you think it's true? It is in fact true, because this is published by European Commission review. So this is absolutely true. But it doesn't make sense. You know, COVID-19 is a disease that affects our respiratory system, and of course those who smoke a lot, they don't have a very strong respiratory system. How is it possible that there is a negative relationship between these two? Can you think of anything? So it goes back to our assumption and the population that we consider. If you consider the whole population, in fact, there is a positive association between daily smoke cigarettes and COVID-19 severity. But if you consider only hospitalized people, there is a negative relationship. Because during pandemics, there were a lot of people in hospitals that they were not necessarily smokers. So that's why there is a negative relationship between COVID-19 severity and daily smoke cigarettes. So assumption is important, and the way that we interpret data is very important. And that's why we are talking about power of data, because this will lead to different conclusions that perhaps it's not right for the society. So here we have John Taylor, who was the then president of IFOA, who is he's an actuary, but he's also a data scientist since, I can say, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So let's hear from him what he thinks of data science.
When I first heard actuaries described as the original data scientists, it was a phrase I really liked, because I think it captures the essence of what actuaries have been doing for centuries now. If you look back at the origins of the profession, we were looking at what at the time were large data sets around longevity and trying to find the truth and the insight in there and then extrapolate it into the future. So I think that's really the essence of what data scientists are trying to do, albeit the tools and techniques and the technology have moved on massively, but the fundamentals of trying to extract truth and insight from data and then use that to infer something about the future is fundamentally the same. Data science is very empowering for actuaries. Not only does it give them the ability to re-engineer what they do in traditional fields, but it gives them a platform to move into wider fields like ride-sharing apps, like climate change, and even agriculture. We've been so accustomed to dealing with data and getting commercial value out of it in our industries, whereas other industries that haven't been so accustomed to dealing with data are now being deluged with it and don't really quite appreciate how to get value out of it. And so bringing in a profession who's expert in dealing with that data and getting insight out of it is a tremendous opportunity for those industries. Even some of the most creative industries like advertising, I heard recently that the Mad Men of TV series are being replaced by the Math Men. The idea being, of course, that advertising is much more data-driven, about finding individual segments and offering bespoke propositions, far more analytical, and even actuaries are getting involved in that type of stuff. As professionals who are immersed in the business context and understanding the impact that companies can have with end users, I think actuaries are well placed to add value and utilise the insights that data scientists can generate. Most actuaries will be very familiar to working in multidisciplinary teams. They've done that for a long time, and I think increasingly they will do so alongside data scientists and technologists. And I think it's the blend of skills that will make those teams very powerful.
In fact, some of the actuarial bodies now started to introduce different paths for data science and different certificates. For example, IFOA introduced new certificate about data science, Casualty of Actuarial Society, and also Society of Actuaries. They have different paths for data science. So they also started to make sure that they develop and they renovate themselves, they upper skills, and they also adopt new techniques. Well, as I mentioned, they're not necessarily new techniques, but the techniques used by data scientists in their work. Now, a statistical data science at Heriot-Watt University. So this is our program structure. As I mentioned, year one is the same for both actuarial science and statistical data science students, or SDS students, as we call it. In year two, some of the subjects are the same, But for example, statistics for social science is offered as an optional course to actuarial science students, or Bayesian inference are offered as optional course to actuarial science students, but these two courses are compulsory for data science students. And in year 3, we have one course, which is in fact 2 courses, which are exclusive for our SDS students, and this is in fact a statistical dissertation, one in the first semester and the other one in the second semester. We have different electives, so if you study data science and then you think that, okay, I still want to know a little bit about finance, that's fine. You can take these subjects as optional subjects. So we have portfolio theory, derivative markets. These are compulsory for actuarial science students, but is optional for data science students. We have data simulation and statistical special topics for our SDS students as well. But why Heriot-Watt University? Of course, it is accredited by the Royal Statistical Society. We have very good scholarships, Data Futures Scholarship. We offer 3 scholarships of 100% and 6 of 50% for our students. And we have student societies here. SAS is for actuarial science students, and SOLID, which is Society of Logical Interpretation of Data. So this is the name adopted by our students themselves. And this is a society for our SDS students. And they have different events. They go and they have different visits. For example, here we have annual dinner. And they visited Great Eastern, AIA, Bank Negara, and Bursa Malaysia. And also we have IFOA awards, up to 5 winners a year from Heriot-Watt University in Malaysia. And on top of that, they can also win Sir Edward Johnston Prize, worth over 1,400. And here we have QR code. I don't know whether it works or not, but then you can get some idea about selection criteria. And if you have more information, you need more information, you are more than welcome to contact my colleague, Larry O'Brien, and Karen Chua from IFOA. So you can take a photo, whatever you like. Okay, thank you so much. And I'm happy to take any questions. Maybe we can start from here and then go to our pigeonholes. Any question? No? Or what are the difference between the career prospects between actuarial science and data science? So they can, as I mentioned, they can work whenever, wherever they need to have to use data, to analyze data, to solve problems. But data scientists rarely work in financial sectors because they are not interested in financial sectors. And but actuarial science actuaries are usually working in financial sectors, banks, insurance companies, pension funds, or investment companies, and consultancies, and some other new areas. How many electives can we take on the 3rd year of both statistical science and actuarial science? Each semester, we have only 4 subjects, including compulsory and electives. So it's just 4 subjects. You can, so do we have any compulsory? If we have any compulsory, for example, in the 3rd year, because most of our optional courses are in the 3rd year. So if, for example, one of them is compulsory, that means you can have 3 optional courses. I've never done or learned coding before. Does the statistical data science requires coding? And if so, will I be able to cope with the lectures? Well, we're here to teach you coding, so don't worry. That's why you want to come to university. None of our students know how to code, but we teach you how to do this. So don't worry about that. This is our job to teach you. And of course, your job to learn. It's a two-way. I saw the content modules that both the statistical science and material science had. They are very similar, I agree. So what makes them different? Is it the way lecturers approach those topics? No, those courses which are compulsory for actuarial science are not compulsory. They are electives for data science, which are usually financial courses. That means we don't emphasize on financial courses for data science students. But there are some other courses, as I mentioned, a statistical dissertation, which is exclusive for our data science students. There are some optional courses which are more suitable for data science students, not actuarial science students. I'm poor at math. Why is there a chance at studying actuarial science? If you can meet our requirements, our entry requirements, you are welcome to apply. Otherwise, you need to be good at math, or if you say that I love math, but I'm not good at math, that means you are ready to study and to think that study is in fact your hobby. If this is your situation, you are welcome to apply, provided that you can meet the entry requirements. I know where most data science graduates from Heriot-Watt University work at which industry. Well, this year we have our first batch who are going to graduate, so I don't have any idea where they are working or where they will be working. But of course, there are a lot of different industries that they can work. There are different companies that they can work. So currently, I don't have any statistics. Sorry. Are there any scholarships offered for actuarial science? I only saw scholarship for data science. Perhaps this is a question our marketing team can answer. Of course, we have, for example, hardship scholarships, and we don't have a scholarship which is exclusive for actuarial science, but we have a scholarship which is exclusive to statistical data science. But we have hardship scholarships and other discount for actuarial science. You can get more information from marketing team. Can a data scientist work in a business company? Like, can he or she apply the knowledge of data science in business? Yes, of course. As I mentioned, for example, the turnover rate in the company is very high, and they want to see what the reason is that. For example, they want to see why a particular song is very popular in Spotify. What is the, I don't know, the properties of that song? This is another thing that data scientists are doing. So yes, they can use their knowledge in business because they can optimize different processes and also make sure that everything is working efficiently. And in order to see how it's possible to introduce different processes to make our practice more efficient, they need to have data, they need to analyze data, and to make some conclusions. How does the prospect of statistical data science compare to data science elsewhere? Okay, so statistical data science and data science, right. So data science, as I mentioned, is more about computer programming. So it has more courses in computer science. But we have courses in statistical modeling and mathematics. And this is the reason that we have a statistical data science, because we believe that if the students want to be able to build models, they need to have this knowledge. So that's the difference. And the prospect is different. It depends on, for example, if you want to work in computer industry, so data science is a better option. In fact, this is the program that we're going to offer in the future, which is data sciences, and this is more about computer science. But we're going to introduce more options related to computer science as well. Is there any certificate required to qualify as a data scientist? No. Our program is accredited by the Royal Society, Royal Statistical Society, so no, there is no certificate that you need to have, but as I mentioned, there are different, for example, actuarial bodies that they offer such a certificate. Will banks be willing to hire data scientists if he or she took all financial electives? Well, I can't make a decision on behalf of banks. It depends on your skills and how you can present yourself and your performance in financial courses. Obviously, data scientists can work in financial sectors as well. It depends on your preference. But if you can present yourself in the right way, and also you have a good knowledge in financial sector, why not? You can, of course, work in banks and any other financial sectors. As I mentioned, cyber risk is one of the emerging risks that actuaries are trying to work in. But perhaps data scientists with their knowledge in computer are better positioned to work in cyber risk or, for example, artificial intelligence and those things. Because, for example, they can introduce different methods in order to automate different parts of the business. Or, for example, so there are different ways that they can contribute to financial sectors. For example, they can work in, the credit part of banks or financial sectors, e-business, e-banks. Are degree holders for actuarial science considered a qualified actuary? No, I'm sorry. They are not qualified actuaries until they become associate or a fellow. So no, sorry. So we call them semi-qualified, okay, not fully qualified. Do we learn programming skills like Python or R or even data visualization, statistical data science? Of course you learn. And if so, may I know, do we learn the basics only or in depth? Thank you. So what do you mean by learning in depth? So this is the program that we offer. And of course, we need to teach you these are skills because these are the skills that all data scientists must have. But I don't know exactly what you mean by learning in depth because so we're talking about lifelong learning. So that means even after your graduation, there are a lot of new things that you need to learn. So still, we need to go for training to learn new models, new programming skills. So how deep you mean, I really don't understand because you learn the basics, of course, and you learn more than basics. The basics is just the first year. But then you go to the second year and third year, which are advanced level. And I can assure you that you will be a very qualified and employable person after your graduation. So don't worry about it. Is a statistical data science very hard? It's not easy, and I think nothing is easy. For example, for me, but I think it depends on people. If someone tells me that you need to go and study literature, I think that it's a very difficult subject for me. Okay, so it depends on you, whether you are happy with coding, because there are a lot of computer programming, whether you like work with data, whether you like visualizing data, whether you like to communicate your results with others. So are you interested in these skills? If you are interested in these skills, no. I would say no, because if we are interested in something and we are ready to spend our time working on that and learn on that, we will enjoy that one. And this will become our hobby. So it will not be boring and it will not be difficult for us. So that's my answer. If you like that, no, it will not be hard for you. I know the difference of actuarial science and data science. As I mentioned, both are working with data, so there is a lot of overlap. Perhaps data science, we can say that it's more about computer science, and actuarial science is more about financial sectors. If you are interested in financial sectors and you want to work in banks, it's better to study actuarial science. Because if you study actuarial science, you will get some information about economics. And this is something that you need to know to be able to work in financial sectors, because you need to know about, what can I say, different, for example, macroeconomics, macroeconomics, and how banks are working. This is something that you need to know. In that case, go and study actuarial science. If you're not interested in financial sectors, and this is not something that you have in your mind, go and study actuarial science and, data science, and after that, perhaps you can work in, Microsoft, Google, and these companies. With COVID-19, will fresh graduates from actuarials and data sciences have a lot of trouble finding employment? Well, unfortunately, this is the problem for every programs, every industry. It's not just about actuarial science and data science, but we try to help our students to make sure that they are employable. Last summer, what we did, we introduced our students to different internship, which was online internship and provided by Casualty of Actuaries. So still, there are different options and opportunities for both actuarial science and data science students. But this is the problem that every industry are facing, and this is not just about actuarial science and data science. I know where most actuarial science graduates are working right now. Insurance companies. I have that statistics. Insurance companies. Any question? So, sorry?
I see that there are a few questions that will be coming soon.
Oh, okay. So, is the credit of a statistical data science transferable to other universities? So you mean you want to study 2 years here and then go to another university for the last year? I didn't understand this question. If that's the case, you need to ask other universities. And, or perhaps if you are referring to the credit of your degree for example, master's and PhD, yes, of course. And our students, because here we have 3 years, and this is in fact an honors degree, so our students can go for PhD directly. They don't need to study master's. If this is what you mean. If you mean that, for example, you study here 1 year and then go to another university for the next 2 years, sorry, I don't have that information. I think it depends on that university. Is there a twinning program for actuarial science and data science? For example, 2 years in Malaysia and 1 year in UK. So it's not compulsory. Students can study the first year here and then go to, that's a Go Global program that we have. So some students study here that the first year and then they go to, for example, UK for the second year, and they again go back here to study the third year, or they study here the second year and then go for the third year to UK. That's called Go Global program. It's not the type of degree that we have here, because we have all examinations here, we have all, all the programs, the way that we deliver everything is the same as UK. And our exams are the same at the same time, all the study materials are the same, so everything is the same. And we don't have a degree that, for example, you need to study 1 year here and then go to UK for the next 2 years. That's not the case. That's an option for our students in order to gain a new experience while studying in another country. And that's a Go Global program that we have. So how many of you are interested in actuarial science? And how many in statistical data science? Perhaps first actuarial science? No one? A statistical data science? Oh, good. One.
Can I have a question?
Sure.
In my simple mind, after hearing what you have, the difference between actuarial science and data science, I seem to get an impression that actuarial science is more of like a specialist in the finance sector.
Yes.
And after the degree, and for those who wants to be, an associate or fellow of a professional actuarial body, they have to take those exams, right?
Yes.
Like IFOA and all that stuff. The degree from Heriot-Watt gives you like 6 exemptions,
Yes.
right? So, and for those who go all the way for actuarial science, they will become an actuary, most likely spend a lot of time, or their career will be more on the finance sector, in the insurance, maybe banks, but more insurance, I think.
Yes.
Right? As for data science, it's a buzzword for the last couple of years. It gave me the impression it's more generalist,
Yes.
right? They can go into many different industries
That's right.
that have volumes of data,
Yes.
and they apply statistical or math modeling in predicting trends.
Yes, exactly.
Is that?
Yes.
And for data science, it's not the same as actuarial, where you have a professional body is well established, many years.
Yeah.
Data scientists is, like I say, the new buzzword, right? So it's more generalist, and after that, how you grow from that is really up to the companies, the industry that you join, and how you apply your knowledge to help the company to grow. Is that?
Yes, that's right. And how you try to develop your knowledge. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
it's not associated with any professional body as of now.
No, but those students who also study the courses that we give them exemption from IFOA, they still can apply to get that exemption.
But they will not be, if you want to be a data scientist, I'm not sure, but it seems to me that people will not spend more time trying to get those few other exams to get a qualified IFOA associate member.
Yes, that's
Right.
right. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. That's a very good summary. Thank you so much. Yes, that's absolutely correct. I think most employers want to hire qualified actuaries, or are they okay with just degree holders? Well, they are absolutely okay with just degree holders because they want to give you the opportunity to work with them, to learn from them, and also they build, they invest on you because most of them give you money and also time in order to study for your exams. So you have the skills and they want to invest on you. Yes, they are absolutely okay with degree holders. Of course, they will not give you the same salary, but they are happy.
What's the entry requirement for the statistical data science?
The same as actuarial science. Do we have a question? I'll take it. Okay.
Is it recorded?
I don't know. Is it recorded? I think it's live now, but
Yeah, it's live, but is it recorded?
yes.
You can do playback later, is it?
Is it after master or PhD only could become a fellow of IFOA? It's in fact after your degree, but it depends how long it takes for you in order to pass the rest of the exam. So it can be after your PhD, after your master's. But if you study master's in actuarial science, you can get more exemption. So that's also a bonus. But it's up to you. For some people it takes 2 years. For some people it takes more than 10 years. For some people it takes forever to become a fellow. So it depends on you. And would it normally take for a degree holder to pass the professional exams? As I mentioned, again, it depends on you how many exams you can pass in because we have 2 times per year. One of them is in the spring, another one is in autumn. And perhaps if you can take more than 2, 3 exams in different diets, then that's fine. But some people may fail the exam, some people need to just have 1 exam. So it can take 2 years, it can take more than 2 years. Is a statistical data science or data science easier to get a job? You can work in a broader industry when you study data science. But actuarial science, actuaries usually work in financial sectors, and financial sectors can be in different places, as I mentioned. So you can work in a broader industry. For example, there are even some data scientists who are working in some manufacturing companies, some pharmaceutical companies, because there are data analytics. So perhaps this is not necessarily the case for actuaries. As I mentioned, actuaries mostly work in financial sectors, but they also started to work in different sectors like climate change, and because their job is to find the risk and try to put a price on that risk. And there are emerging risks everywhere. So thank you so much for coming here, and thank you for your attention. Thank you for your question. Thank you for questions of our audiences at home. Please stay safe, and good luck for your future.
Thank you.
Thank you.